see. We're live.
Alrighty. We are now live on YouTube and, of course, Twitter as well. And we are on Instagram as well to talk about
Locked in.
what happened with this Knicks game today. They did not look good. They lost
No.
this game badly to the Lakers, 97-110. It was a very brutal effort. I mean, I think I can go into many different things, but off rip, the offense completely abandoned them today. I mean, they had nothing going on that front whatsoever. They shot just 8 for 34 from 3-point range. They had many chances down the stretch as well to close the gap and possibly even make a crazy comeback, and they couldn't do that. They were unable to do that at all. And, we'll dive into this player more, but Mikal Bridges was a complete zero, literally zero. He had 0 points in 27 minutes, which is very impressive in a bad way. I mean, I'm completely stunned that he ended up doing that. But, we'll get into all of that stuff more. But, Johnny, I want to pass it off to you real quick to kind of open things up here. What was your initial takeaways from this game? Because this was bad.
Yeah, that was a really ugly game. One of the worst of the season, I think, all around. It was just poor. The defense wasn't horrific. I think it stepped up in the second half a little bit when we went on that run. But the offense was bad. That was one of the worst offensive games of the season. There was not a single player in the starting five that shot over 50% from the field. As you said, Mikal Bridges 0 for 6. Jalen Brunson's shot spin off for he was 8 for 19. It's not awful, but his shot's been off for a little bit now, a week or two. So I want to see him get back in a rhythm. OG wasn't bad, but it was just kind of all over the place. You got outworked by the Lakers, a team who's notoriously known for not giving 100% energy all the time, whether it be Luka, DeAndre Ayton. I don't really want to call those guys out. They torched us tonight, but it was just a really poor effort. They didn't really have any energy. Shout out to the bench guys. I mean, Jordan Clarkson, he hasn't really played a lot. He came in, tried to, create a spark off the bench. So shout out to him. Shamet was solid. Jose Alvarado, his offense has been bad. His offense has been really bad since joining the Knicks. It was just an ugly display. 8 for 34 from behind the arc. That is not something I like to see. It was just an all-around poor effort tonight from the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, it's really that simple. The offense especially was just brutal to watch. I mean, you're gonna have nights where you're just not making anything. It happens. It comes with a long season and all that stuff. But tonight, I mean, from the get-go, it just looked bad. And Lakers did not have LeBron. I think that's important to mention that as well. They didn't have LeBron, and they still got just completely outworked. And the rebounding is another thing I really want to touch on today because oh my goodness, that was one of the worst rebounding efforts, arguably the worst rebounding effort that I had seen them have all season long, which is very uncharacteristic of them because they've actually been a very good rebounding team this year. But today, they couldn't get a single rebound at all. All the 50-50 balls were not going in their way, and everything else like that was just nothing was working for them on the rebounds. I mean, they looked lazy. They looked like they might have had like a little bit of that, I guess, hangover, if you want to call it, from daylight savings time, and the long travel as well. I don't know what it was, but they looked lethargic. They looked lazy. They just didn't come out ready today. Really, it's that simple. They were not prepared for this Lakers team at all. And I'm disappointed personally because, I can handle the fact that they went 3-2 over this tough 5-game stretch. I think that's a great record. I think that's actually kind of where I said they need to at least finish in that 5-game stretch to prove something. So you lose this game. Oh, well, I can move on from that. I can't move on from the fact of how it happened. I felt like they kind of just packed it in early, and you really felt like they even down the stretch when they were really cutting into it and they really had an opportunity to kind of possibly make a comeback, they just fell flat. They took bad shots, made the wrong passes, made poor decisions. I mean, it was very, very, very ugly to watch. It was probably one of their ugliest games of the season. I can think back to many other games this year that were pretty ugly. The Cavs game was one that immediately comes to mind as of at least of recent, but this one is up there too. This was pretty ugly from start to finish. And I want to pass it back to you, Johnny, to ask you about Jalen Brunson because he got going in the fourth quarter, but the first 3 quarters was once again a little rough for him offensively. He's kind of had some shooting slumps of late. He's in a bit of a rut, which I want to ask you really Are you concerned about that? Do you think this is something that's going to last a little more than it really should be, or do you think this is just like a little shooting slump and he'll get over it?
I think it's a little shooting slump. Now, I will say the field goal percentage, three-point percentage has been down this year compared to other years. I think that's a very real thing. His shooting has not been as good as it has been in other years. And taking a look at his field goal percentage the past couple games, tonight 42%, Denver 23, 27, 45, 43. It just hasn't been great. He hasn't shot over 50% in any of those games. Now, of course, we won against San Antonio, Toronto, and he has been good, moving the ball, but tonight wasn't great. 7 turnovers. That can't happen. It's going to be very hard to win basketball games when, as a team, you're turning the ball over 18 times. That's just not going to win you basketball games. It was just a very, very sloppy performance. As you said, lethargic, slow. There's a lot of adjectives I could say for this game. Of course, Mikal Bridges was terrible. The bench wasn't horrific. Mo Diawara didn't have his best game. But I think we kind of covered, like, I covered at least what I wanted to say. It's just we were slow, we were lethargic. It's not really anything past that. I'm not too worried going forward. It was a bad game, sloppy game. I hope the team bounces back moving forward. It was good they got at least some rest at the end. Actually, they didn't really get that much rest. OG still played 38 minutes. Brunson played 42, actually, looking at it. So I don't love that, especially on a back-to-back. They're playing the Clippers tomorrow. Just put up a better performance tomorrow. It was really the energy. The energy for me was pretty much zero. You got outworked by the Lakers, outworked by DeAndre Ayton. That's not what you want to happen at
Making
all. It's
DeAndre
bad.
Ayton look good in the big
Yikes. Yikes.
2026. Ugh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
The same guy that came out recently and said that his team is trying to make him Clint Capella, and we made him look good tonight. Um, that's
And
not not.
that's probably Mikal Bridges' worst game as a Knick.
Oh, it's
I mean,
easily Mikal Bridges' worst
0
game as a
points,
Knick. It's the
5 first
second
round
time.
picks,
It's the
guys.
second time in Bridges' Knick career that he's finished a game with 0 points, which I honestly forgot about the first time. I have to look back and see when that other time was. But I felt like just tonight he gave nothing on either
And
end of the floor
you wanna know what's
because
funny? Out of the entire starting lineup, he was actually the lowest in plus mi like, not lowest, but, like,
yeah,
OG
and
was
I
minus
can
9.
explain exactly why his plus minus was in fact that as
I
it
guess the
was
highest you could say. Yeah.
because he played only 27 minutes because he had 4
Yeah.
fouls in the first 3 quarters. So,
Yeah.
not only was he horrific on the offensive front, going 0 for
Defensively
6,
was
not even
bad.
scoring a point in 27 minutes, but also he didn't give anything defensively either. And maybe you could say in the second half the defense was better. Sure. For the whole team, yeah, it definitely was better. But, when you see that Bridges was in foul trouble and he had to sit all those minutes and then he wasn't doing anything offensively either, it's a waste of our time. It's a waste of minutes. It's a waste of usage there. And I think we need to have another conversation here about a different player. And I don't
Yeah,
want
I
to
was
rag on
gonna
this
bring it
guy
up.
because I
Yeah.
don't think that this guy is the reason they lost the game. I think as a team they just played terrible tonight. But I think we need to move on from Josh Hart starting. I think it is time that we have the conversation once again, and I think it is time that we firmly solidify that they need to move on from him as a starter. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, he sucks as a player. No, I think he's a valuable player and he still needs to play a good amount of minutes. I don't think he should be starting. I think the spacing when he is out there is terrible because he's
Yeah.
not looking to shoot the ball. He's not looking at the rim. Tonight, he scored 8 points in 22 minutes and he went 4 of 8 and he only attempted one 3-pointer. I'm sorry, but in today's NBA, you cannot get away with that anymore. You got to have, your guards and your wings, especially, be able to willingly shoot the ball. And Hart doesn't do that. Hart does everything else at a good level. He's good in transition, good on the fast breaks, good with the rebounds, of course, a solid playmaker. I think that energy would be great to have off the bench, though. I really do. And I think at this point, you need to consider playing Landry Shamet over him. Landry Shamet today played more minutes than Josh Hart. Landry Shamet had 27 minutes played tonight with 10 points. He wasn't great. I'm not going to sit here and act like Shamet was amazing today, but I
But he
think the
brought he
point.
brought a defensive intensity, like,
Yes, he did.
better
He
than
brought
Josh
he,
Hart.
he, he
Josh
brought
Hart,
more.
I don't
Go
wanna
ahead.
rag on the guy, but sometimes he just makes boneheaded decisions on defense, and especially on the offensive side of the ball. We cannot in today's NBA, you cannot have a guy who is looking to pass, not even looking at the rim when he's wide open from 3. This offense is completely stagnant, and I just wanna see Landry Shamet out there. I think he's a smarter basketball player. I don't wanna rag on Josh Hart, as I said, but Defensively, he brings a bigger energy, presence, and I just like Landry Shamet with this starting five. I think we need a starting five that could space the floor each and every guy, and Josh Hart just can't do that. And he's an energy guy. You're not going to lose that energy by putting him on the bench. So I think it's smart to put Landry Shamet in the starting five. I think that's what needs to happen, and I think Mike Brown's starting to realize that. Past couple games, Landry Shamet is playing like almost the same amount of minutes as Josh Hart or more, like we saw today. He played more minutes than Josh Hart. So I think in the next couple of games, maybe we see that switch.
Personally, I think it's a long overdue decision to move Hart out of the starting five. And, you know, I mentioned last game, even when they blew out Denver, that they needed to move on from Hart as a starter. And some people were saying, like, oh, they won the game by 40. Why are you saying that? This, that, the third. Guys, this has been a problem for weeks. This has been an issue for a very long time now that, we've struggled offensively with Hart on the floor. It is no secret. The Knicks cannot afford to continue to start games so slow like they did today, for example. Today, they started the game off slow. They, granted today, they never really were able to get over the hump. In fact, they never led in this game. But against Denver, for example, they went down by 10. First couple minutes of that game, you felt like, oh man, are we going to get smoked by these guys on the road? And then, Hart comes out of the game, Shamet comes in, and they get on a run, and then they end up winning the game by 40. Granted, Josh Hart played pretty well against Denver, but again, they cannot afford to start games so slow. And for the people saying like, oh, he's shooting X percentage from three, he's shooting like 38% from three. The volume is not high enough for me to really sit there and say, yes, he needs to stay in the starting five. It's not high enough.
Yeah,
When
you
you
guys,
watch how it's
people could say, oh, it's 37, whatever it's at. Maybe it's at what's his 3-point percentage this season? I'm gonna look
it's
right now.
38, it's like
This
38.5%.
guy, he's not a 38% 3-point shooter. Like
He's
he's
attempting
not
three
shooting the
threes a
ball when he's
night, by the
wide
way.
open.
He's attempting
Yeah.
three three-pointers a night,
Yeah, and
which
he's
is
not shooting
not
the ball
high
when he's
volume.
open. He's not like he has a better 3-point percentage than Jalen Brunson. Like, what are we
Yeah,
doing,
so is
guys?
Josh Hart a better shooter than Jalen Brunson?
Yeah, you can't look at
No,
the numbers like that. You can't.
it's asinine to do that because when you actually watch the games and you see how the offense looks with Hart out there with the starters, the offense is clunky. No one's
So
moving
clunky.
around. The spacing is really bad. Everyone wonders why, like, say, Karl Anthony Towns can't get open for three, or why Jalen Brunson's getting doubled at the perimeter. It's because teams are okay with leaving Josh Hart open. They are perfectly
Mhm.
fine with leaving him wide open for shots, from the 3-point line. If he makes them, great, he makes them, but he's not guaranteed to make them. If you give him higher volume, he's not shooting 38%. If you gave Josh Hart, say, I don't know, 5 to 6 3-pointers a night instead of 3.5, I think that percentage would be more like 34%, which is not that's not bad, but that's not,
Not
this
great.
40% 3-point shooter that people are telling me that he is. No, he's not a 40% shooter. It's just not the player he is. The player he is an energy guy, a guy who's good in transition, a guy who's good on the fast breaks, a guy who gives rebounds, a guy who's a good playmaker. Could you imagine that stuff off the bench, though, when you need a spark? I think him and Jose Alvarado could actually be good together off the bench. I know you mentioned Alvarado's offense has been bad, and I know it has been bad of late, and it's understandable. He hasn't been that good of late. But I think if you pair him and Hart together, I feel like there would be a lot more ball movement, a lot more energy. I think you could really use that. Me personally, I think that would be the smarter decision to make. I know there's some people out there who I've also suggested to start Mohamed Diawara. My issue with that is he's a rookie. I don't think they should go ahead and insert the rookie into the starting five with less than 20 games left in the regular season. I just don't think that's a smart decision to do because who knows? Who knows if Diawara is really going to get a ton of minutes in the postseason? I think the way Diawara is in right now, that kind of role, I think it's perfect for him. I think Mike Brown is realizing he needs to keep playing, and there's times he could be playing more, or there's times he could be playing less, but I think the type of role he has is good for him. So I'm not going to choose Diawara to start. I think Landry Shamet starting is the obvious choice. And I think Mike Brown is starting to kind of realize at this point that Shamet is just the better go-to option with the starters. I mean, lately he has been the first sub off the bench. And when he is the first sub off the bench, usually they end up doing really well. They go on good runs. He's, like you brought up, he brings the intensity defensively better than Josh Hart. He does
Yeah.
do better defensively than
And
Hart. I
and
mean,
Shamet will, he'll cause offensive fouls. He'll do all these things that like the dirty work that I don't really think Josh Hart's doing. Now, Josh Hart will get in there, he'll be physical, but this guy's not like drawing charges and whatnot. He's not bringing that type of energy on the defensive side of the ball. Landry Shamit's going to bring shooting. He's still 6'5". He's not a small dude. It's not like we're losing too much size. I think we're getting better defensively and offensively if we start Landry Shamit over Josh Hart.
I think it's really that simple. I think Shamit is just the better option in this case. I mean, the numbers don't lie either. I mean, I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but I have seen a lot of the metrics of late. And the Knicks starting five, yeah, especially against the good teams, are not good. Their
No,
offensive rating is not good. Their defensive rating is not good. With the way their starting five is currently constructed, if you're including Hart in the starting five, the metrics do not lie. I don't have again. I don't have them in front of me, so maybe to some it's like, oh well, you don't have them in front of you. You can if you look them up though, you will see what I'm talking about. You will see that their numbers are not very good together. It's been that way since last year. There's a
yeah,
reason why Mitchell Robinson came into the starting five during the playoffs last year because the starting five with Hart was not good. It wasn't good. And again, I'm not, gonna spend the stream just ripping the team apart because again, it's one loss. Things happen. They've been playing very good basketball over the course of the past month. They've only lost 6 games since mid-January. It would be overreactionary of me to just sit here and absolutely tear the team to shreds. No, but today was a lazy effort. And I'm going to keep it real and say that it was a lazy effort. And I think for them to avoid these lazy efforts and for them to avoid starting games slower, I'm going to provide the solution, which my solution is to start Landry Shamet instead. I think if you can do that, you can avoid starting games off slow. You can avoid turning the ball over so much. You can avoid the things that are costing your team a little bit here. Again, this is not a I hate Josh Hart stream. No, I think Josh Hart is an important player. And there are some fans who are overreactionary about Hart, saying how, they don't think he's valuable. No, I think Josh Hart is very important to what we have.
agreed.
But I do think that the role he's in as a starter, it just doesn't work. You can't have all these elite talent players around you and have a guy like Josh Hart out there who is just not willing to do anything offensively, and teams are okay with that. Teams are okay with leaving him open without actually guarding him, going into a zone or
Yeah,
double
and,
teaming Brunson.
and it's not like he could create in the half court either. This guy is not
He
getting to
he
the free throw
can't.
line either. He's a good finisher in transition, sure,
He's
but he
he's
can't create his own
fantastic in
shot. But
transition. He's
but
fantastic
in
in
the
the
half
fast
court,
breaks.
it is abysmal in the half court. It
It's
is
really
so
bad in the
bad
half court.
because
It's
he will
really
just
bad.
he'll hand off the ball. That's like it. That's all he does. And I love Josh Hart. He's great in his role, but his role needs to be a guy off the bench who could
And
work in transition,
and
bring
I and I
energy.
and I
But
want to point this out too because I just seen someone mention this in the comments on the Instagram, and
yeah,
I think Mike Brown actually putting in Clarkson when he did. Maybe he could have put him in sooner, sure, just given how the offense was looking through the first 3 quarters. But I like that he actually tried something, though. I can give Mike Brown a little bit of credit for that and say he tried something. Now, did Clarkson do some boneheaded things in the fourth quarter? Absolutely. There were a couple heat check ish shots, or a couple like that one play at the end of the third quarter when the clock was running out and he dished it off to Hart, and Hart was unable to get it off in time before the buzzer sounded. That was stupid. That was just not a smart play. Clarkson's better off just going up with that. There were a bunch of bad decisions made by the team all around today. But again, that's not me saying put Jordan Clarkson back in the rotation. No, I'm just glad Mike Brown tried something different because, quite frankly, his team gave him no answers today. But I think Mike Brown also isn't helping himself by continuing to start Josh Hart. And I think it is time to get him out of that starting five. I'm not saying that, you got to all of a sudden cut his minutes drastically. No, he can still play a similar load of minutes he's getting right now. He can't start the game, though. You
will
can't.
you be surprised if Shamit starts against the Clippers?
I will not be surprised at all, actually. And if
Okay.
anything, I will also not be surprised if Hart sits the game for, the lingering injuries he's been dealing with.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hart was healthy enough to play today. He was healthy enough to play in the last game against Denver, despite being questionable in that game. But given that it's a back-to-back, now I'm thinking about it, maybe Hart does play just because Mitchell Robinson will have to sit. So
Hmm.
I'll take back what I said about Hart there. Maybe he will end up playing the game, but I would not be surprised if Shamit ends up starting. And you know what? Now that I even bring it up, now that I bring up that Mitch is going to be sitting, maybe it would be better if you put Hart off the bench because you're not going to lose too much rebounding off the bench if you end up putting Hart there. You'll still have the rebounding. Maybe you won't have the rim protection, but you'll have the rebounding. And speaking of Mitchell Robinson today, he was terrible today. I feel like we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
He was okay. pointing out one guy is, maybe not fair because quite frankly, everybody except maybe Karl Anthony Towns was terrible today. Karl Anthony Towns was pretty good today, actually.
Yeah.
25 points,
Karl Anthony
16
Towns has been
rebounds.
our best player the past 2 or so weeks, you could
He
say.
definitely has.
He's been bringing an energy that, we've struggled with, especially today.
But as I circle back a little bit to Mitchell Robinson, he was terrible, and it was one of the worst games I've seen him play this year, and it was pretty alarming because the rebounding, as I mentioned before, was drastically bad.
I
And
think
as
he
I'm
finished with
pulling up the
3
stats
rebounds.
right here, the rebounding battle, it's funny because we actually out rebounded LA
Yeah, we missed a
47-42.
million shots,
But
but
we missed a billion shots, as you point out. The
yeah,
Lakers missed a billion shots in the fourth quarter. Neither team wanted to make a bucket. But it was the second chance opportunities that were really, really
yeah,
hurting
the
us. That
50-50
that
balls
stuff
were
was, and
brutal.
I'm looking at it right now. The Lakers had
Scoreboard.
15 second chance points to our 9. So
Yeah,
all the 50-50 balls, all of that stuff was not in our favor at all. And quite frankly, it was a big reason why we ended up losing this game. But Mitchell Robinson, as I point out, I mean, he was pretty much a non-factor. You bring him in the game for defense and rebounding. He had 4 rebounds in 17 minutes. I mean, that's not the Mitchell Robinson we know. I just
especially when
watched
you
him.
know you're not gonna play tomorrow. I would have liked to see a better energy brought from Mitch tonight.
That's what I'm saying, especially because, like you just said, he's not going to end up playing tomorrow. So now he just played basically only 17 minutes of basically nothing, giving us absolutely nothing for nothing because now we're going to not have him tomorrow night either against the
Yeah.
Clippers, unless, of course, something changes and they decide to play him in a back to back. But I highly doubt they're going to end up doing that. So I'm not even going to even be thinking about that. But as far as that's concerned, I'm looking at tomorrow against the Clippers as a get right game. And again, the Clippers are not a good team, but they're not a team you can just gloss over either. They still have some good players. They have Kawhi Leonard. Yes, they did just trade away some of their other key players, such as James Harden and
I do
Ivica
wanna add
Zubac.
something when you're done too.
Yeah, go for it. I'm kind of
Yeah,
just
this
rambling.
is this is the time to make a push for the 2 seed. This is the time. You got through the hard stretch. You're not gonna play the Clippers, the Jazz, the Pacers, Warriors, Pacers, Nets, Wizards, Pelicans. Let's
And
get
the
some
Warriors
wins.
will probably be without Steph Curry too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then you play, Hornets, Thunder, Rockets. Those will be some tough games, but let's go on a big win streak. This is the time.
And
The
the
second
Clippers
seed
will
is
be on the
still.
second night. Will the Clippers be on a back to back? I
Are they
want to check. I want to
are
check.
they
Will the Clip?
playing tonight?
Let's see. Let me take a look. The Clippers. Okay, so the Clippers do not play tonight, so they're not on a back to back. But
But
either
out of that
way,
entire
this was
stretch, we played one team above 500, and it's the Warriors, who are a game above 500. So
and they
this
probably
is the
won't have
spot
Steph
for us to.
Curry, and who knows, they might be under 500 by the time we meet them.
Yeah, and
So
that's a roster of talent that should be under 500. That's a bad
and
team
keep
in
in
my
mind,
opinion.
guys, like we're not coming on this stream to say that the team sucks because
No,
they don't suck. You lost
we're
a
a
game
very good
today.
team compared to the rest of the
you
league.
you lost a game today. It happens.
Yeah,
The times
but
of
it's the
the daylight
inconsistency.
savings time didn't help. The long travel didn't help. It was a matinee game on a Sunday afternoon. The Knicks, if you guys know historically, always suck on Sunday
Always.
afternoons. They always stink in these matinee games. So I'm not going to overthink this game. And plus, they already beat the Lakers once this season. So I'm not going to overthink this game at all whatsoever. What I am going to highlight though, of course, the concerns that we've outlined in this episode. Here is, of course, the starting five and the effort level that was out on the floor today. Because, I mean, again, the effort level was putrid.
Or that was one of
Putrid.
the worst, performances in terms of effort I've seen all year from the squad.
And Mike Brown didn't hold up either in his presser. I don't have quotes in front of me, but I've seen from the beat reporters on Twitter saying that he was very frustrated about the effort level and the 50-50 balls and all that stuff. That stuff is aggravating. When you know that the Knicks can play harder than that, and you've seen them play more physical than that, and then today they just don't do that. That's frustrating. That is very
That's the most
frustrating.
frustrating part of this team, in my opinion. It's they're just so inconsistent. When they play great basketball, this team looks unstoppable, and then they'll do something like what they did today, and it's like, okay,
Like
how
look at
can
the
I
game
really
against
judge this
San
team?
Antonio where
Yeah,
they looked perfect. That was
that's one of the
we
most
came on the
physical
stream
teams. They have
after they beat San
Wembanyama.
Antonio,
Yeah,
and we said that was arguably their most perfect win of the year because they played well offensively and they had one of their better defensive performances of the year
they brought in intensity.
against a team that is arguably that a lot of people will consider the best team in the league.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I see it that way, I'm like, okay, great. That's the Knicks team I want. That's the Knicks team I want to see. And today, I don't think the defense was awful because I mean, Luka did hit some shots that you just kind of got to go, well, what can I do about that? Because there's, it's Luka Doncic. He's gonna make some shots that you can't really do nothing about. But other times, in this game, they were leaving shooters open. Lakers got a lot of good looks. They just weren't making them. Even in the beginning of the game, the
The Knicks
Lakers
lost
were.
this game. The Lakers didn't really win it. The Knicks lost.
That's what I'm
Even when they
saying.
were down like 20 or so, they had a chance to come back too, and they turned the
And that's
ball
and
over,
that's
they missed
crazy they
shots.
even had a chance to come back
Yeah,
in this game
yeah.
because they were
The
down
Lakers
by
should have
as
won by
much as they
40.
they were down by as much as 23 late in the third quarter, and they were down by, like 18 at the start of the fourth quarter. You really felt like that at that point in the game, they could have just packed it in and kind of just been like, oh, it's over. Let's get the starters out because we got a game tomorrow night. Bro, they cut it to like 10 with
Yeah,
still 5 minutes to go. That is plenty of time to
and then
make
both
something
teams just
happen.
couldn't hit a shot, and then
Neither
the
team
Lakers
can
pulled
make a
away again.
shot. The Knicks were making too many poor decisions, bad reads, bad passes, bad shots. It's not a recipe for success. And as you brought up, the consistency thing is what's the most frustrating part about this team. Because sure, they're 16-6 since January. They've played some great basketball and they've done great on the defensive side. Sure, but I feel like we have nights like this a little more often than we
Too
want them to
much,
have. Because
especially for a championship
here's the
contender.
thing. We talked about the Oklahoma City game, and I said that I am okay with that loss. I
We were
was
both
not
okay
upset
with that,
about
yeah.
that. You played that game hard. I felt like they actually, looked like they cared. They played it hard. They played the defending champs really well. I was not
Second
really
night of
that
a
upset about
back-to-back
losing
too.
that. What happened?
Second night of a back-to-back as
Yeah,
well.
on a back to back as well. I was not upset about that. I was, as a fan, upset that they lost the game, but I was not as upset as I was today about this one because this one, you really felt like they should have won this. The Lakers did
Mm,
not play that good. I mean, Luka Doncic did Luka Doncic things, but you still had a chance to win the game. You gave 110 points. That's a lot of points, but it's also not too many at the same time. In today's NBA, that's more than enough to still be able to win a game.
yeah,
You score 97 points, you're not winning a game. You're not
you're
doing
not
that.
winning the game. No.
You shoot as poorly as you do. Again, bad shooting nights are going to happen. Tonight they were 8 for 34 from 3, which I don't think they're going to repeat that. I would like to hope. And I pray to God that Mikal Bridges doesn't repeat a 0-point performance, a cardio game, because
Yikes.
it's frustrating with Mikal Bridges, and I really want to dive into him real quick because this is a guy who we've been very up and down about this year, and we've praised him when he does well, we criticize him when he does bad. We're not getting a consistent version of Mikal at all, and it's really disappointing because he had that one game against I believe it was the Spurs that he had 25 points in when
Think
they blew
so.
out San Antonio, and that's an encouraging performance because that's a good performance on both sides against a really good team. But again, too many times he'll do something like that and then he'll
And then
follow it
tonight.
up with 3 games that are pure stinkers.
And then you just
And
don't how do you even judge that at that point? Because you don't
and
know what
it's
you're gonna
it's
get.
it's too hard to evaluate this guy as a player because like you just said, we don't know which version of him we're gonna get every single night. The
Yeah.
55 people that are currently viewing this stream across all the platforms that we are on right now scored the same amount of buckets, had the same amount of points as Mikal Bridges did today. That's
What are we
disappointing.
doing?
That
Yeah.
is
And
disappointing.
it's not like this dude's a bad basketball player. If he was scoring 5 points every night, we could just come on here and say, "All right, this dude's not good," but we know Mikal Bridges is a talented basketball player. That's the most frustrating part to me because this guy should be a winning player. Guy's supposed to be great defensively. He could play in the gaps, score buckets. He's great from 3. This should be a very winning player in today's NBA, but he just hasn't been. And that's the most frustrating part because this dude is talented. It's not being shown on a nightly basis.
It's frustrating because we traded so much to get this guy, and
Ugh.
again, I don't think that this is like the end all be all for Mikal because again, maybe in the playoffs come around and he does what he did last year in the playoffs again, and we feel good about it. But the 5 picks, the 5 first-round picks for an inconsistent wing is frustrating. $150 million contract extension for an inconsistent wing is frustrating. It's frustrating. I expect more. This is the difference too. I want to point out. OG Anunoby has stretches throughout this year, and he's had stretches throughout his career where, offensively, it's just not working for him. He's missing a lot of threes or he's not finishing at the rim. At least we know most nights, 99.9% of nights, OG Anunoby will be your best perimeter defender, and he will give it his all on that front end of the floor. Mikal Bridges, on the other hand, you don't know what you're getting
Anything.
out of
This
him.
dude is like you're picking out of a hat, like what you're gonna get. You
You
do
don't
not
know
know.
if you're gonna get a consistently good defensive performance or a good offensive performance or both. Against Spurs, both. He was great on both sides of the ball. The past games since then, though, you feel like maybe he's good on the defensive side, but he's not doing good offensively. Tonight, he was just bad all around. It's frustrating because we gave Karl Anthony Towns a lot of crap for the inconsistencies as well. Since the All-Star break, Karl Anthony Towns has turned it on. Karl Anthony Towns has looked like an all-star again since the All-Star break. He has looked great, and he's been a great defender. As you
He's
pointed
playing
out in our
consistent
post on
basketball
Instagram
too.
earlier this morning, he has
Yeah.
been a great defender over this past month. So when we know Karl Anthony Towns can turn it on, I know Mikal Bridges can turn it on too. But when is he going to do it? I expected him to do it by now, and he hasn't done it. Since November, it's been too much up and down from this guy. And it's frustrating
Yeah, he
because
started the season off so hot too. He looked fantastic
he
to start
started
the
the
season.
season looking like a DPOY candidate, and he was
Yeah.
shooting efficiently, and he was scoring at a high level.
Oh, it was
Now he's
awesome.
not,
Yeah.
now he's not giving us enough points, and on defense, it's very wishy-washy. You don't know if you're going to get the elite defensive version of Mikal, or if you're going to get what you got tonight, where he was in foul trouble, had to get taken out of the game early in the third quarter and scored 0 points. I mean, that's literally an all-around disaster of a game. And again, it happens. Players have bad games. I feel like this has happened too many times with Mikal, though, where he has a game that you look at and you go, man, he's going to need to forget about this one. Yeah, he's going to need to forget about this one. He's going to need to forget about some of the other ones that he's had all year. It's frustrating with Mikal. It's frustrating. It is super, super frustrating.
Yeah, I think we kind of summed up what we wanted to talk about tonight. Just a frustrating game, energy lacking. You don't really know what you're going to get with this roster. And we'll come on here and praise them when they're great, but these games
And
happen
and, and, and
a little bit
I do
too
want to
often.
point this out too before we do wrap up the stream here. For the people watching, I don't want everyone to think that we're just coming on here to rip everyone apart.
No, we don't want to
Again,
do that.
they've played good basketball overall in a bigger volume of late. Losses are going to happen. You can't go undefeated. I understand that, but when they come out with an effort level like they did today, yeah, I'm a little
Yeah, you
frustrated
kind
with
of
that.
deserve it. Yeah, you deserve to kind of get
I'm a
ripped
little
apart.
frustrated. I can handle losing a close game, like against OKC, for example. I was not really that
Yeah,
upset about that.
energy's
It
there.
happens.
Yeah,
It's a good team. It happens. The Lakers, they are a good team. They're in playoff position. You can beat the Lakers though. You don't.
you're a
You
better
shouldn't
team
get.
than Lakers.
You
You're a
shouldn't
better
get
team.
snacked by. You shouldn't. If you lose to the Lakers, it's one thing. The Lakers are a good team. They'll find a way to beat good teams. But the Lakers have struggled really bad against good teams this year. In fact, I think I overheard on the broadcast that they are 4-12 against teams with a 60% or higher win percentage, and 3 of those wins came in the beginning of the year. So they basically have one win against a really good team since like November. And the Lakers were also without LeBron James and all the other stuff we had mentioned earlier in the stream. So with that being said, I mean, I expected a better performance from the Knicks tonight. Did I expect them to win? Absolutely, I expected them to win. Did I expect them to come out like this? No, I didn't expect that. I didn't think they would do this. And to the people that might think like, oh, it shouldn't be surprising because this is the way the team is. I expect better from this group with this much talent. I do. So, maybe our expectations are very high, but they should be this high. We were put on a pedestal at the start of the year
We are
that
supposed to be championship contenders.
that's what I'm saying to the
James
people that
Dolan said we're supposed to be championship contenders.
to anybody that thinks that we overreact or that we speak way too highly of this team or we expect so much out of this team. Yes, we do expect so much out of this team because this was supposed to be the year that they were supposed to cruise through the Eastern Conference and perhaps make the NBA Finals, which of course they can still make the NBA Finals, and I do think they can make the NBA Finals.
Yeah,
I think with the Knicks performing at their best, they are a Finals team. I think with the way they performed against San Antonio, for example, and of course against Denver, if they can play like that more often, it's a finals team. Absolutely is a finals team. Losses like these are going to happen. But if they play like this more often, or if they come out like this against good playoff teams, then you know what's going to happen after that. And again, I'm confident that the Knicks can beat anybody that's in front of them. I am. I don't want people to think I'm giving up on the team or that I am doubting them as a contender. No, I think they can make the finals. But again, our expectations are super high. That's why we talk about the team the way we do, because they're supposed to be on Oklahoma City's level, on San Antonio's level, and maybe they are on their level right now. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're a little bit behind it. We don't know. I think that's the best way to describe everything we're talking about. We don't know anymore. We don't know what version of the Knicks you're going to get. We don't know what version of certain guys we're going to get. We don't know. And we'll let it play out. There's still what? How many games we got left? 17 games left
Something like that. Yeah.
in the regular season. We
It's
got
go time, man. It's
a
go time.
very much a cupcake schedule ahead of us.
Yeah.
And one thing I should point out with that cupcake schedule, as I just mentioned, the Knicks cannot let their foot off the gas. They have a tendency to play down to their competition, and they cannot do that in this situation because they are still fighting for that second seed. And hell, they have a chance at the first seed if Detroit continues to lose games. Detroit just lost to Brooklyn last night. This felt like an opportunity to not only inch closer to them, but also stay within striking distance of Boston because they defeated the Cavaliers earlier today. So you could have not only separated yourself more from Cleveland, but you could have gotten closer to Detroit and Boston. They were unable to do that. Every game matters down the stretch of the season. It matters. So we'll have to just see what happens at this point. That's really all I got to say. If you have
Yeah.
anything else you want to
I
add
think
before
I'm
we
good.
wrap it
I
up,
think I'm
then
good. I think we covered everything we needed to.
all right. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up the stream, and we hope you guys did enjoy this.
Thank you,
I know
guys.
we were a little frustrated, but it is what it is. We
Frustrating
we
game. Yeah.
we move on. It's on to the next one. They got another game tomorrow night against the Clippers at 10 o'clock. We're not going to do a stream for that one because it's a very late game, so we're not going to be up at 1 a.m. doing a stream. But we will definitely give you guys more coverage about it the following morning. So be sure to look out for that. But until then, make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere pretty much we are on. You can follow me and Johnny's personal Twitter accounts. They are right there on the screen. And we will see you guys in the next live stream on Fireside Knicks. Peace out, and let's
Bye,
go
guys.
Knicks.